The glitter jar slipped from Mia's hands and hit the observation deck floor with a sharp crack. 8-year-old fingers reached too late as the container split open, sending thousands of tiny sparkles across the reinforced glass. The shimmering pieces caught the double sunset streaming through the window, creating patterns of gold and silver that danced with every small movement. "Oh no," Mia whispered, dropping to her knees. She tried to scoop up the mess, but glitter had a way of spreading everywhere. Her mother would be upset. Dr. Lena Aucaffer had strict rules about keeping the research station clean. Below the observation window, something moved. Mia froze, her hands full of sparkling dust. 3 small shapes emerged from the rocky outcrop beneath the station. They looked like lizards, but much larger. Baby dragons, her mother called them, though their scientific name was saurians. Each one was about the size of a large dog, covered in scales that gleamed in the fading light. The hatchlings tilted their heads upward, drawn by the glittering display above. One of them, the smallest with a white stripe down its back, chirped loudly. The sound was surprisingly bird-like for such a reptilian creature. Its siblings joined in, creating a chorus of curious peeps and whistles. Mia pressed her face against the cool glass, watching them. She had been on this moon for 2 weeks, visiting her mother during school break. Every day she watched the saurian family from this same window, but they had never noticed her before. The mother dragon always kept her babies close, teaching them to hunt and hide. Now all 3 hatchlings stared upward, transfixed by the accidental light show. A much larger shadow fell across the babies. Mia's breath caught in her throat. The mother saurian stepped into view, her massive body making the hatchlings look tiny. The research team called her Scarlet because of her deep crimson scales. She stood nearly 3 meters tall, with claws as long as kitchen knives and teeth that could tear through metal. Her eyes, golden and sharp, scanned the area for threats. The hatchlings bounced excitedly, chirping and pointing their small snouts toward the window. Scarlet followed their gaze, her eyes locked directly onto Mia's face. The child stopped breathing. The dragon mother's stare was intense, calculating. Mia had never been this close to being noticed before. The observation glass was supposed to be one way, but somehow Scarlet seemed to see right through it. "Mia, what are you doing?" Her mother's voice made her jump. Dr. Lena Aucaffer walked into the observation room, tablet in hand. She stopped short when she saw the glitter everywhere. "Sweetheart, what happened?" "I dropped it, I'm sorry, but Mom, look." Mia pointed down at the saurian family. Lena moved to the window, her expression shifting from annoyance to fascination. The hatchlings were pawing at the ground where a few pieces of glitter had drifted down through the ventilation grates. They picked up the tiny specks carefully, examining them in the fading sunlight. One held a piece up to its eye, watching it sparkle. Another tried to eat one, then spit it out with an indignant squeak. "Remarkable," Lena breathed. She activated her tablet, starting a video recording. "They're displaying curiosity toward an unfamiliar object. That's advanced behavior." The smallest hatchling found a cluster of glitter pieces and gathered them into a small pile. It arranged them carefully, then sat back to admire its work. The action was so deliberate, so purposeful, that even Lena gasped. "Are they playing?" Mia asked. "I think they might be." Lena zoomed in with her tablet's camera. "Saurians are supposed to be purely instinctual at this age. We've never documented play behavior in hatchlings before." Scarlet watched her offspring investigate the strange, sparkling material. Her body language remained tense, ready to attack if needed. But she didn't stop them. She didn't sweep them away to safety. Instead, she observed just as the humans were observing her. The door to the observation room hissed open. Commander Ralph entered, his feathered crest flattened in concern. The avian administrator looked like a tall, thin bird who had learned to walk upright. His species had been part of the Galactic Council for centuries. "Dr. Aucaffer, I received an alert about activity near the saurian nest." His large eyes blinked rapidly when he saw the scene below. "What have you done?" "It was an accident," Lena said quickly. "My daughter dropped her craft supplies." "This is a contamination event. We have strict non-interference protocols." Ralph's voice rose in pitch, a sign of stress in his species. Saurians are extremely dangerous. Any interaction could provoke an attack. They're not attacking, Mia said softly. They like it. Below, the hatchlings continued to play with the glitter pieces. The one with a dark patch on its shoulder started tossing a sparkle to its siblings. They batted it back and forth between them, creating an impromptu game. Their mother sat down, her tail curling around her body. She was still watchful, still ready to defend her young, but something in her posture had relaxed. Dr. Finn waddled into the room, his amphibious skin glistening under the station lights. The research assistant's eyes widened at the scene. This is unprecedented. We should document everything. We should stop this immediately, Ralph countered. The last research team that attempted contact with Saurians lost 3 members. We're not attempting contact, Lena said firmly. We're observing natural behavior in response to an environmental change. Mia watched the hatchlings play. The smallest one picked up its favorite glitter piece and brought it to its mother. Scarlet lowered her enormous head, examining the tiny sparkle on her baby's claw. For just a moment, the fierce predator looked almost gentle. Then she lifted her gaze back to the window, back to Mia. Their eyes met again. This time, Mia didn't look away. She pressed her palm against the glass in a small wave. The dragon mother's eyes narrowed, studying the gesture. The hatchling at her feet chirped and mimicked the movement, raising its small claw. Did you see that? Finn gasped. The hatchling just copied the human child's gesture. Nobody spoke. They all watched as the smallest hatchling waved its claw again, looking from Mia to its mother and back again. Scarlet rumbled deep in her chest, a sound that vibrated through the station's foundation. It wasn't quite a growl. It was something else, something the researchers had never heard before. The sun fully set, and the automated lights around the station flickered on. The glitter on the observation deck floor caught the new illumination, creating a fresh display of dancing light. All 3 hatchlings looked up simultaneously, their eyes wide with wonder. They chirped in harmony, a sound of pure delight. Mia smiled. She hadn't meant to make friends with baby dragons today. She had just wanted to make art with her glitter. But sometimes the best things happen by accident. Below, Scarlet gathered her hatchlings close as darkness fell. But before leading them back to their nest, she looked up one more time at the human child. In the window, her golden eyes held something that might have been recognition, or perhaps curiosity, or maybe just the acknowledgement that the world had changed in some small but important way. 5 days had passed since the glitter incident. Mia sat at the same observation window every afternoon, watching the Saurian family below. The hatchlings returned to the spot where the sparkles had fallen, sniffing at the ground and chirping to each other. They seemed disappointed when they couldn't find any more of the shiny pieces. Lena had forbidden Mia from bringing more glitter near the window. Too dangerous, she said, but she hadn't said anything about making art in her room. Mia pressed another piece of tape against the poster board, securing a pattern of silver and blue sparkles in the shape of a star. She held it up to catch the light, smiling at how it glimmered. "That's beautiful, honey," Lena said from the doorway. "But remember, it stays inside." "I know." Mia turned the poster board, examining it from different angles. "Do you think they miss the glitter?" "Probably not. They're wild animals, sweetie. They don't think about things like we do." But Mia wasn't so sure. She had watched the smallest hatchling, the one with the white stripe, digging in the exact spot where the glitter had fallen. It looked like searching behavior, like memory, like the hatchling was hoping to find more. That night, wind began to howl across the moon's surface. Mia woke to the sound of metal groaning and the station's emergency systems beeping. She ran to her mother's quarters, finding Lena already awake and checking monitors. "It's a storm," Lena explained, pulling Mia close. "A big one. The station is secure, don't worry." "What about the dragons?" Lena pulled up an external camera feed. The saurian nest, usually sheltered by rock formations, was being battered by fierce winds. Debris flew through the air like missiles. Scarlet huddled over her hatchlings, using her body as a shield. Her wings spread wide, trying to block the worst of the wind. Mia watched in horror as a particularly strong gust slammed into the nest. Part of the rocky overhang crumbled, crashing down near where the hatchlings cowered. Scarlet roared, a sound of frustration and fear that cut through even the storm's noise. "We have to help them," Mia said. "We can't. The non-interference rule exists for good reasons. Besides, saurians are incredibly resilient. They'll survive." But as they watched, another piece of the nest broke away. The smallest hatchling, the one Mia thought of as Stripe, got caught by a gust of wind. The baby dragon tumbled away from its mother, crying out in fear. Scarlet lunged after it, but the wind was too strong. It carried the hatchling toward the research station. Stripe crashed into the side of the building, claws scrambling for purchase on the smooth metal. The baby slid down the wall, still crying. Its siblings answered from the ruined nest, high-pitched distress calls that made Mia's heart hurt. "Mom, please." Lena's face was torn with conflict. "Mia, if we go out there, Scarlet will think we're attacking her baby. She'll kill us." "But if we don't, the wind might." Mia was already moving toward her room. She grabbed the glitter poster she had made, along with the jar of emergency glitter she kept in her desk. "We have to try." "Absolutely not. You are not going outside." But Mia was her mother's daughter, stubborn and determined. She ran toward the airlock, clutching her glitter supplies. Lena chased after her, calling for security, but the storm had triggered emergency protocols. The systems were slow to respond. By the time Lena caught up, Mia was already in the airlock, pulling on an emergency environment suit. It was too big, meant for adults, but she managed to seal it properly. Her mother's xenobiology training had taught her daughter well. "Mia Akefer, you stop right now." "I'm sorry, Mom, but that baby is scared." Mia hit the external door release. The airlock began its cycle. Lena had no choice. She grabbed another suit and began pulling it on. "If we're doing this insane thing, we're doing it together." Outside, the wind nearly knocked Mia off her feet. The suit's helmet protected her face, but she could feel the force of the storm trying to push her back. Stripe was huddled against the station wall, about 20 meters away. The hatchling saw her and cried out, but whether in fear or hope, Mia couldn't tell. Behind Stripe, the ground began to shake. Mia looked up and saw Scarlet charging toward them. The massive dragon mother covered ground with terrifying speed, each step a small earthquake. Her eyes were fixed on the human approaching her baby, and they burned with protective fury. Mia's hands shook as she opened the glitter jar. She had seconds before Scarlet reached them. The wind was so strong that simply pouring the glitter wouldn't work. She turned to face the charging dragon mother and threw the entire jar's contents into the air with all her strength. The wind caught the glitter, creating an explosion of sparkles. Thousands of tiny pieces swirled in the storm, catching the station's lights. They danced and spun, creating a cloud of shimmering color between Mia and the charging saurian. Scarlet skidded to a stop so abruptly that she nearly fell. Her massive head tracked the glitter as it swirled around her. Stripe stopped crying, mesmerized by the familiar sparkles. The hatchling chirped, a sound of recognition and wonder. Mia stood perfectly still, her empty hands visible. Lena emerged from the airlock behind her, moving slowly. Mother and daughter waited as the fiercest predator on the moon decided their fate. Scarlet's eyes moved from the glitter to Stripe to Mia. Her breathing was heavy, visible as clouds of condensation in the cold air. The wind began to die down slightly, and the glitter settled around them all like strange snow. Stripe took a tentative step toward Mia, then another. The hatchling was shivering, cold, and scared. It looked back at its mother, chirping a question. Scarlet rumbled, a deep sound that seemed to vibrate the air itself. The dragon mother took one massive step forward. Then she stopped. Her body was tense, ready to attack, ready to defend. But she didn't advance further. She had stopped just at the edge of the glitter cloud, watching her baby approach the small human who had created beauty in the middle of a storm. Mia slowly knelt down, making herself smaller. Stripe waddled closer, sniffing at the glitter that had settled on Mia's suit. The hatchling's scales were scraped from hitting the wall. Up close, Mia could see the baby was trembling from more than just cold. It was terrified. "It's okay," Mia whispered, even though she knew Stripe couldn't understand her words. "You're safe now." Lena kept her eyes on Scarlet, ready to grab Mia if the dragon attacked. But Scarlet remained still, watching. From the damaged nest, the other two hatchlings cried out. Stripe answered them, then looked at Mia again. The baby dragon was caught between two sources of safety, two sources of warmth, unable to choose. The three of them formed a strange triangle in the dying storm. Scarlet at one point, massive and deadly. Mia at another, small and vulnerable in her oversized suit. Stripe in the middle, a baby caught between instinct and curiosity. The wind still howled, but softer now, as if even the weather was holding its breath. From the ruined nest, the other two hatchlings made their decision. They scrambled over debris and charged toward their sibling, ignoring their mother's warning growl. The one with the dark patch on its shoulder reached Stripe first, nuzzling against its smaller sibling. The third hatchling, slightly larger than the others, circled around to investigate Mia's boots. Scarlet's muscles tensed. Her babies were surrounding the alien creature. Everything in her biology screamed at her to attack, to eliminate the threat, to protect her offspring. But they weren't acting threatened. They were acting curious. They were acting the same way they had with the glitter, like this strange encounter was a game rather than a danger. Mia noticed the hatchlings shivering. The storm had soaked them, and the night air was freezing. She remembered something her mother had taught her about saurians. They were cold-blooded, dependent on external heat sources. These babies were going into shock. Slowly, carefully, she reached into her suit's emergency pocket. Every saurian researcher carried heating packs in case they got stranded outside. Mia pulled one out and activated it by squeezing hard. The chemical reaction made it warm immediately. She placed the heating pack on the ground between herself and the hatchlings. Stripe sniffed it cautiously, then pressed against it with a chirp of relief. The other two crowded in, all three babies clustering around the warmth. Within seconds, they had pushed themselves against Mia's legs too, seeking her body heat through the insulated suit. Lena took a careful step forward, hands visible and empty. She spoke to Scarlet in a calm, steady voice. "We're not going to hurt them. Can you understand that? We just want to help." Scarlet tilted her head, processing the sounds. She couldn't understand the words, but tone carried meaning across species. This wasn't the voice of a predator. This was the voice of another mother, concerned and gentle. Lena pulled out her tablet with slow, deliberate movements. She tapped the screen and turned it towards Scarlet, showing simple images. A picture of storm clouds, a picture of the broken nest, a picture of the research station, a picture of baby saurians safe and warm. Scarlet's golden eyes tracked the images. Her head tilted the other way, a gesture of consideration. For a species deemed too primitive for communication, she was showing remarkable understanding. She looked at the tablet, then at her babies huddled against the small human, then back at the tablet. The largest hatchling chirped and tugged at Mia's pant leg. It wanted to move, but not away. It was pulling her toward the station entrance. Stripe joined in, adding its own chirps of encouragement. The third baby, the one with the shoulder patch, looked at its mother and made a long, questioning trill. Scarlet responded with a series of rumbles and clicks. The hatchlings went quiet, listening. It was clearly a conversation, a back-and-forth exchange. The babies chirped again, more insistent this time. Stripe even stamped its little feet in what looked like frustration. "They're arguing," Lena breathed. "They're actually arguing about what to do." Mia started walking backward toward the station, moving slowly. She kept her hands where Scarlet could see them. The hatchlings followed immediately, still pressed against her legs for warmth. Stripe picked up a piece of glitter from the ground and carried it like a treasured possession. Scarlet took a step forward, then stopped. Her babies were walking away with an alien. Every instinct told her to stop this. But the storm was still dangerous. The nest was destroyed. And her offspring clearly trusted this small creature who brought sparkles and warmth. Lena walked beside Mia, keeping herself between her daughter and the dragon mother. She continued speaking in that calm voice, narrating their movements. "We're going inside now. Your babies will be safe. You can watch them. We won't take them from you." The cargo bay doors were still open from the emergency evacuation protocols. Warm light spilled out onto the rocky ground. Mia led the hatchlings toward it, and they followed eagerly, drawn by the promise of heat and shelter. At the threshold, she stopped and looked back at Scarlet. The dragon mother stood alone in the darkness, her massive form outlined by the station lights. She watched her babies cross into alien territory, into a place she couldn't follow. The cargo bay entrance was too small for her bulk. This was the moment of impossible choice. Scarlet made a sound Mia had never heard before. It was low and mournful, a mother's cry of separation. The hatchlings froze at the entrance, looking back. Stripe chirped urgently, calling to its mother, but Scarlet didn't advance. She couldn't fit. Physics made the choice for her. Inside the cargo bay, Lena had already set up heating lamps and soft materials for bedding. The research team had prepared the space during the storm, hoping to save any wildlife that needed shelter. They just hadn't expected that wildlife to be baby saurians. Commander Routh watched through the interior window, his crest fully raised in alarm. Dr. Finn was recording everything, his hands shaking with excitement or fear or both. Other station personnel crowded around monitors, watching history unfold. Mia sat down on the warm floor, and the hatchlings immediately piled onto her lap. They were too big for this, their combined weight making her legs go numb, but she didn't care. She pulled out her glitter poster from inside her suit and spread it on the ground. The babies chirped with delight, touching the sparkles with careful claws. Outside, Scarlet paced at the entrance. She could see her babies through the doorway, see them settling down with the human child, see them safe and warm and content. Lena approached the dragon mother slowly, carrying more heating lamps. She set them up near the entrance, creating a warm zone where Scarlet could rest while keeping her offspring in sight. Then Lena did something that made the entire research team gasp. She positioned a monitor screen at dragon eye level, angled so Scarlet could see inside the cargo bay clearly. On the screen, Mia was showing the hatchlings how to make patterns with glitter. Stripe tried to copy her, using its claws to push sparkles into a line. The other two watched, learning. It was play and education combined, the foundation of intelligence. Scarlet looked at the screen, then through the doorway, then back at the screen. She rumbled softly, a sound that might have been acceptance or resignation or perhaps gratitude. Then she settled down near the heating lamps, her eyes fixed on the monitor. She would rest here, where she could watch over her young even though they were in alien hands. Inside, Stripe fell asleep on Mia's lap, one claw still clutching a piece of glitter. Dawn broke across the moon's surface in shades of purple and gold. Mia had spent the entire night in the cargo bay, refusing to leave the hatchlings. She had fallen asleep sometime around midnight, curled up with 3 baby dragons using her as a heating pad. Lena had covered them all with thermal blankets and stood guard until exhaustion forced her to take shifts with Dr. Finn. Now Mia woke to the sound of chirping. The hatchlings were awake, exploring their temporary home with renewed energy. The storm had passed completely, leaving the moon's surface clean and quiet. Stripe found a smooth stone and brought it to Mia like a gift. The hatchling with the shoulder patch, which Mia had started calling Patch, was investigating a corner where some glitter had scattered. The largest one, whom Mia had decided to call Tiny as a joke about its size, stood at the cargo bay entrance looking out. Beyond the doorway, Scarlet was still there. She had never left her post. The dragon mother lifted her head when she saw her babies moving, checking that all 3 were accounted for. Lena entered the bay carrying breakfast for Mia and some raw protein supplements that might work for saurian hatchlings. "How did you sleep?" "Good, they're really warm." Mia accepted the food gratefully. "Mom, what happens now? The storm is over." "I suppose they go back to their mother." But even as Lena said it, she could see the problem. The hatchlings should be eager to return to Scarlet. Instead, they were contentedly playing in the cargo bay, treating it like a new nest. Mia shared some of her breakfast with the hatchlings. They sniffed the food curiously but didn't eat it. Stripe brought over more glitter pieces instead, arranging them in small piles. Patch found some soft fabric and started making a nest with it. Tiny remained at the entrance, making questioning sounds at its mother. Scarlet rumbled back a clear command, "Come here, return to me." The hatchlings looked at each other, then at Mia, then back at their mother. They were clearly torn. Tiny took a step toward Scarlet, then stopped and looked back at its siblings. "They don't want to leave," Dr. Finn observed from the doorway. "This is fascinating. They've formed an attachment to the human child in less than 12 hours. Commander Routh joined him, looking less alarmed than he had during the storm. "Dr. Ockhaffer, the Galactic Council is requesting an immediate report. They're calling this situation unprecedented." "Tell them we're managing it carefully," Lena said. She watched Mia gently pet Stripe's head. The hatchling leaned into the touch, eyes closing in contentment. "Tell them humans have made peaceful contact with Saurians." "Peaceful contact led by an 8-year-old with glitter," Ralph muttered, but there was something like admiration in his voice. Mia stood up, holding Stripe carefully. The hatchling was heavier than it looked, solid muscle under those scales. She walked toward the entrance, toward Scarlet. Patch and Tiny followed immediately, unwilling to be separated from their sibling or their new friend. Lena's heart jumped into her throat. "Mia, what are you doing?" "Stripe needs to be with its mom, they all do." Mia kept walking, steady and calm. "But I think they want us both." She stopped just inside the doorway, still protected by the station, but within Scarlet's reach. The dragon mother could grab her in an instant, could end this experiment in interspecies friendship with one swipe of her claws. Mia carefully set Stripe down on the ground between herself and Scarlet. The hatchling didn't run to its mother. Instead, it turned and tugged on Mia's pant leg with its teeth, gentle but insistent. Then it waddled to Scarlet and did the same to her foreclaw, pulling and chirping. The message was unmistakable. "I want both of you." Scarlet lowered her massive head, bringing her face close to Mia's. The child could see herself reflected in those golden eyes, could smell the dragon's breath, hot and sharp, could hear the low rumble building in Scarlet's chest. This was the moment of truth. The dragon mother sniffed Mia thoroughly, her nostrils flaring as she processed every scent. She could smell fear, yes, but not the sharp tang of hostile intent. She could smell her baby's scent all over this small creature, could smell care and warmth and protection, the same smells she carried herself when tending her young. Scarlet made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. She touched her snout gently to Mia's helmet, applying just enough pressure to acknowledge contact, but not enough to harm. It was a gesture she used with her own hatchlings, a sign of acceptance and trust. The research team watching through cameras gasped collectively. "Did that just happen?" Finn whispered. "Did a Saurian mother just accept a human into her family group?" Over the next hour, something remarkable developed. Scarlet didn't take her babies away. Instead, she began gathering materials from the storm debris and building a new nest right outside the cargo bay entrance. She worked methodically, testing each piece for stability and comfort. The hatchlings ran back and forth between helping their mother and playing with Mia, bridging two worlds with their endless energy. Lena brought out safe building materials from the station's supplies. Soft insulation foam, heat-reflective blankets, smooth metal plates that would hold warmth. She set them near the construction site, not approaching Scarlet directly. The dragon mother examined each item, then incorporated the useful ones into her nest. It became a hybrid structure, part natural dragon nest and part human engineering. By midday, the arrangement was clear. The hatchlings would spend mornings with Scarlet, learning to hunt the small creatures that lived in the rocks. She would teach them to use their claws, to understand the moon's dangers, to survive. Then they would return to the station entrance where Mia waited with glitter and warmth and gentle hands. They would play, learn different skills, experience different kinds of safety. Scarlet allowed this. She could have stopped it at any time, but she chose not to. Perhaps she recognized that her babies needed more than she alone could provide. Perhaps she saw in the human child something that reminded her of her own protective instincts. Or perhaps, in some way that transcended species, she understood that the universe was offering her offspring a gift, and only a fool would refuse it. That evening, as the twin suns set again, Mia sat with her back against the cargo bay wall. Stripe was curled in her lap, sleeping peacefully. Patch and Tiny dozed nearby, their bellies full from the small prey Scarlet had taught them to catch. The dragon mother rested in her new nest, positioned so she could watch both the horizon and the station entrance simultaneously. Lena sat beside her daughter, arm around her shoulders. "You know what you've done, don't you? You've achieved what dozens of researchers said was impossible." "I just wanted to help them," Mia said simply. "They were scared." "And that's exactly why it worked." Lena kissed the top of her daughter's head. "Sometimes the best solutions come from the simplest hearts." 3 weeks had transformed the research station from a quiet outpost into the most watched location in the galaxy. Mia sat cross-legged on the ground, teaching Patch how to sort glitter by color. The hatchling had become remarkably good at it, using its claws with surprising precision. Nearby, Stripe was attempting to draw patterns in the dust with a stick, mimicking the way Mia made designs. Tiny had discovered music and would bounce excitedly whenever anyone played recordings through the station's external speakers. Scarlet observed it all from her nest, which had grown more elaborate over the weeks. She had started adding decorative elements, smooth stones arranged in patterns, pieces of colored metal positioned to catch the light. When Mia had first noticed this, she had cried with joy. The fierce dragon mother was making art. Today was different. Today, the Galactic Council representatives were arriving. Lena adjusted her formal clothes nervously. She had been rehearsing her presentation for days. How to explain that her 8-year-old daughter had accomplished what trained xenologists couldn't. How to describe the bond forming between human child and dragon family. "Dr. Ockhaffer, they're landing now," Commander Ralph announced. His crest was perfectly groomed for the occasion. Even Finn had cleaned his research equipment to an unusual shine. The shuttle descended onto the landing pad, carrying representatives from 7 different species. Mia recognized a few from her mother's educational materials. The tall crystalline beings were quartz folk, known for their logical thinking. The floating jellyfish creatures were drift singers, famous for their poetry. There were others she didn't know, all prestigious members of the council. Ambassador Cyril led the group. He was from a species that looked vaguely bear-like, covered in silver fur with kind eyes. He had a reputation for fairness and wisdom. As he exited the shuttle, his gaze immediately found the scene outside the cargo bay. Scarlet lifted her head, assessing the newcomers with predatory focus. "Remarkable," Cyril breathed. The reports were accurate, a Saurian mother completely calm in proximity to an alien installation. "Not just calm," Lena said, stepping forward. "Cooperative. She's been allowing us to document her parenting behaviors, her communication with her young, even her creative expressions." The delegation moved closer, maintaining a respectful distance. The hatchlings noticed the strangers and clustered around Mia protectively. Stripe positioned itself between her and the newcomers, puffing out its small chest. The gesture was clear. "This human is ours." "May I ask the child some questions?" Cyril requested. Mia nodded, suddenly feeling shy with so many important people watching her. The ambassador knelt down to her eye level, a gesture of respect that surprised her. "Hello, Mia. I'm Ambassador Cyril. Can you tell me how you became friends with the Saurians?" "I dropped my glitter," Mia said honestly. "They liked it, so I shared more. Then when Stripe was in trouble during the storm, I helped. That's all." "That's all," Cyril repeated softly, glancing at his fellow delegates. "She makes it sound simple." "It was simple," Mia insisted. "They were babies who needed help. Their mom was scared for them. My mom gets scared for me too when I'm in danger, so I understood." A quartz folk delegate spoke, its voice like wind chimes. "But Saurians have attacked every species that approached them. Dozens of deaths, countless injuries. How did you know they wouldn't hurt you?" Mia thought about this carefully. "I didn't know for sure, but they seemed more curious than mean. And when I gave them pretty things without asking for anything back, they trusted me more." "Gifts without expectation," murmured a drift singer. "The child understands diplomacy better than we do." Lena stepped in to provide the scientific context. "What we've learned is that Saurians are far more intelligent than we believed. They have complex communication, emotional bonds, and creative expression. Previous contact attempts failed because they were approached with weapons and containment equipment. The Saurians responded to threat with threat. "And your daughter approached with glitter," Cyril said, something like wonder in his voice. "I approached like a kid wanting to share something cool," Mia corrected, "because that's what I am." The delegation spent the next hour observing. They watched Mia play with the hatchlings, teaching them new games. They saw Scarlet bring food to share, carefully placing pieces where Mia could reach them. They documented the hybrid communication developing between species, a mix of sounds, gestures, and mutual understanding. But the most striking moment came when Patch found a particularly shiny piece of metal in the debris field. The hatchling brought it to its mother first, showing her the prize. Scarlet examined it, then gently nudged Patch toward Mia. The hatchling carried the gift to the human child, placing it carefully in her hands. "Did you see that?" Finn whispered urgently. Scarlet directed her offspring to give a gift to the human. That's not just tolerance, that's active social bonding. Ambassador Cyril asked to interview Lena privately. They walked to the observation deck while Mia continued playing with her dragon friends. "Dr. Ockhaffer, the Council wants to understand the human approach. We've classified 17 species as too dangerous for contact. Saurians were at the top of that list. If your methods work here, they might work elsewhere." Lena chose her words carefully. "We don't approach with the assumption of danger. We look for intelligence first, hostility second. We send our most innocent representatives, our children, because they haven't learned to fear. We offer gifts of beauty and joy. We respect parental bonds because we have them too. Your species is very young in galactic terms. Most of us have forgotten what it's like to approach the universe with wonder instead of caution." "Maybe that's our advantage," Lena suggested. "We're still naive enough to believe friendship is possible." That evening, the delegation prepared their report. Ambassador Cyril wrote the summary himself, choosing each word with care. The document would change galactic policy on contact protocols. It would open doors to species long considered unreachable. And it would establish humanity's reputation not as warriors or scientists, but as bridge builders. As the shuttle prepared to depart, Cyril knelt beside Mia one more time. "Thank you for teaching us something we had forgotten, that sometimes the bravest thing to do is offer kindness." Mia just smiled and held up a new glitter creation. Stripe, Patch, and Tiny had helped make it, their claw marks visible in the patterns. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful, just like the friendship it represented. Scarlet watched the shuttle leave, then settled into her nest with her hatchlings. Mia leaned against the dragon mother's warm side, and Scarlet didn't move away. The fierce predator and the small human child rested together as stars appeared overhead, proof that the universe was full of unexpected possibilities. 2 months later, the research station had become something nobody had planned. Other Saurian families had started approaching, drawn by the sight of Scarlet and her hatchlings living peacefully alongside humans. What began as one dragon mother's impossible choice had sparked a movement among her species. Mia stood beside the completed glitter installation, admiring their work. It had taken weeks to build, a massive spiral of crystallized glitter pieces embedded in a metal framework. The structure caught both sunlight and starlight, creating a beacon visible for kilometers. Scarlet had helped design it, using her claws to indicate where certain colors should go. The hatchlings had contributed too, choosing their favorite shades and patterns. Now it stood as a monument to an accidental friendship that changed the galaxy. "It's beautiful," Lena said, camera recording the moment. "The Council wants to replicate this design on other worlds, places where they're attempting new contact protocols." Mia adjusted the ribbon around Scarlet's neck. The dragon mother wore it proudly, a collar made from glitter pieces suspended in clear resin. It caught the light as she moved, sparkling with every breath. She had allowed Mia to put it on without hesitation, understanding it was decoration, not restraint. 3 more Saurian families had moved into the area around the station. Their mothers watched Scarlet carefully, learning from her example. Their hatchlings played with human children who had arrived with new research families. The station population had tripled, with volunteers from across the galaxy wanting to study this unprecedented cooperation. Tiny, now almost twice the size it had been when they first met, was teaching a younger hatchling how to play catch with smooth stones. Patch had discovered a love for music and would sway to any rhythm, creating dances that its siblings tried to copy. Stripe, still the smallest and gentlest, had become Mia's constant companion, following her everywhere. "Mia, we need to talk," Lena said gently. She sat on a warm rock and Mia joined her. Stripe curled up at their feet, content to doze in the sunshine. "School starts next month. We need to return to Earth." Mia had known this conversation was coming. Her chest felt tight. But what about Stripe and Patch and Tiny? "They'll be fine. They have their mother and their community. You've taught them so much, sweetheart, but they're wild creatures. They belong here." "I belong here too now," Mia said quietly. Tears started forming in her eyes. "They're my friends." Scarlet, hearing the distress in Mia's voice, lifted her head. The dragon mother rumbled a question, concern evident in her tone. She had learned to recognize human emotions over the past months. The hatchlings woke up, sensing something was wrong. Lena pulled Mia into a hug. "I know it's hard, but you've done something amazing. You've shown the galaxy that friendship crosses all boundaries. That's going to help so many other species connect with each other." "I don't want to help other species," Mia sobbed. "I just want to stay with my dragons." That night, a solution emerged from an unexpected source. Commander Routh approached Lena with a proposal from the Galactic Council. They wanted to establish a permanent cultural exchange program. Human families would rotate through the station for extended stays, learning from the Saurians. In return, young Saurians who wanted to explore beyond their moon would have the opportunity. "They're offering you the position of permanent director," Routh explained. "The station would become a proper colony, homes, schools, everything a community needs. Mia could grow up here if you choose." Lena looked at her daughter sleeping in the cargo bay, surrounded by dragon hatchlings who had claimed her as part of their family. She thought about the groundbreaking research happening here, the bridges being built between species. She thought about her own career, the opportunities this represented. But mostly, she thought about Mia's happiness. 3 weeks later, their new home was ready. It wasn't fancy, but it had rooms for both of them and a large outdoor space where the hatchlings could visit. Scarlet approved of the location, building her nest nearby. The dragon mother had become more than a research subject. She was a friend, a co-parent in the strangest sense, and a symbol of hope. On moving day, Mia organized her glitter collection in the new house. She had accumulated quite a supply, donated by well-wishers from across the galaxy. Every species seemed to have their version of glitter, materials that caught light and brought joy. Her favorites were still the simple ones from Earth, but she appreciated them all. Stripe wandered through the new house, sniffing everything. The hatchling had grown confident enough to explore human spaces without its mother present. Patch and Tiny waited outside with Scarlet, all of them watching Mia's new home with interest. "Do you like it?" Mia asked Stripe. The hatchling chirped and rubbed against her legs, clearly approving. That evening, the entire community gathered for the installation's dedication ceremony. Ambassador Cyril had returned, along with representatives from the 17 species previously deemed too dangerous for contact. Humans had been invited to attempt first contact with 3 of them, using methods learned from Mia's success. "We stand here today because a child saw beyond fear," Cyril announced to the assembled crowd. "Because she offered beauty instead of weapons. Because she recognized that all parents, regardless of species, love their children fiercely." Mia activated the installation's lighting system. The glitter beacon blazed to life, its colors dancing across the gathered species. Saurian hatchlings chirped in delight. Human children applauded. Alien delegates made their various sounds of approval. Scarlet stood beside the installation, her head raised proudly. She had traveled far from the isolated predator who once attacked anything approaching her nest. Now she was teaching other Saurian mothers that not all strangers were threats, that sometimes the small creatures bearing gifts could become family. Mia looked around at her expanded world. Human friends and dragon friends all together, research that would change the galaxy happening in her backyard. Her mother happy and fulfilled, leading the most important work of her career. And 3 hatchlings who had taught an entire civilization that assumptions could be wrong. Stripe nuzzled her hand, wanting attention. Mia scratched behind the hatchling's eye ridges, right where it liked best. The simple gesture of affection had become natural to both of them, proof that different species could learn each other's languages of love. As the twin suns set and the installation's glow brightened, Mia thought about the jar of glitter that had started everything. She had just wanted to make pretty pictures. She hadn't planned to change the galaxy or teach anyone lessons about diplomacy. She had just seen some baby animals who seemed to like sparkly things. Sometimes the biggest changes came from the smallest actions. Sometimes the fiercest protectors recognized protection in others. And sometimes, when you approached the universe with wonder and glitter and an open heart, it gave you magic in return. Scarlet rumbled contentedly, her hatchling safe and her human friend happy. The dragon mother had stepped aside when her babies ran to a strange creature bearing gifts. That choice had opened doors across the stars. And now, under the light of their shared creation, 2 species that should have been enemies raised their young together, proving that friendship was always possible if you were brave enough to try.